Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage, the Vault Series. Today's clip was shot back in 2008. This clip is with the great Clayton Ivey. Clayton not only was a studio player with F.A.M.E Studios in Muscle Shoals, but also would fill in and play over at Muscle Shoals Sound Studios with the famed Muscle Shoals Swampers. In this video, Clayton talks about playing with the Osmond Brothers when they were just little kids and really how talented they truly were, along with so many other greats that they played with down in Muscle Shoals. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Once again, from Muscle Shoals, Clayton Ivey.
Those were some days, man. Those were fun days. Because, you see, back then, and I'm sure we were all felt the same way, I couldn't wait to get up and go to the studio. I couldn't wait to get up and go get started. I mean, that's the way it was, you know. And I think I don't care what you do, as long as you feel that way about it. By God, you way ahead of the game. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way I felt. I was on just a burning desire. It was just every day was different. Every artist is different. You may be doing the same genre of music, but everybody's different. Got their own little thing. And they want to hit records as bad as you want to cut it for them. And that's when it was fun. It was really a lot of fun, you know. I remember going to a gig one night. I was about 19, 20 years old, and I heard this record on the radio, and it's an R&B tune. It just came out. It's just smash, and it was When a Man Loves a Woman. I says, you know, I gotta find a way to go where they cut this record. I gotta find a way to get there because that's what I wanted to do. And lo and behold, I guess I was about 20, and I guess I was 23 years old. And this is strange in a way because I was in Pensacola at the time, living in Pensacola, was born and raised there. And Wayne Jackson, of all people, called me about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and said he had a gig for me in Memphis the next afternoon at 6 o'clock. Could I be there? And I said, that was all the thing I needed. And what's really funny is I like 12 hours having my degree in music, and I walked out, and I never looked back. And I went to Memphis, played the gig, then went over to Muscle Shoals and saw some friends, came back home for a couple of years and, you know, working gigs and things in clubs. I'm down in the Phoenix Springs, Florida, in my ex-mother-in-law and father-in-law's house. And I get this call from Rick Hall. And I think I was about 23 years old. And he said, that's when Barry and Roger and Dave and Jimmy went and bought old Fred Beavis' studio in Sheffield. Bought that studio, and he was needing a rhythm section. And he was trying to put one together real fast. And he said, you know, and Ronnie Eaves, one of the horn players of Muscle Shoals Horns, referred me to him. And he called me up, and I said, I knew who he was because I'd come up there in '66 and did a record with Don Schroeder. And he called me down there and said, would you come up, you know, and like try out for this gig, for this rhythm section? I said, oh, hell yeah. And he says, do you know a bass player? I said, yeah, I got a bass player, Jesse Boyce. And Jesse and I went to Muscle Shoals, and well, I guess we got the gig because I've been there ever since until 1988. But what happened was, when we got there and we tried out, and we was cutting some tracks and things, and he liked what he was hearing, and I said, when do you want us to move up here? He says, well, next week. I said, next week? I said, I thought you were at least talking about a month or two. He said, no, you got to move here next week. I said, my God. I said, where are we going to live? I said, he said, don't worry about that for a couple of weeks. I said, that's all right, that's fine. So I moved to Muscle Shoals. I worked for Rick for a couple of years, and when I was with him I moved up here in '69, because I think Barry Beckett came up in '67 or '68. And anyway, I moved there in '69, and the first big record that I played on was Patches, Clarence Carter. And then the next year after that, we cut the Osmonds, and had to cut One Bad Apple, which was a monster. But the real big record sales, as far as the Osmonds go, was Donnie, when we cut Puppy Love and Go Away Little Girl. I mean, it was a huge record. And after about a couple of years of working with Rick, I decided that I mean, well, I want to just freelance. I want to get out on my own because my objective was I wanted to be in that rhythm section at Muscle Shoals Sound. And I left Rick, and I was freelance for about a year and a half. And then Jimmy Johnson calls me one day and asked me if I want to be part of this rhythm section. I said, that's why I moved here. And, of course, then again, the rest of that's history. We cut a bunch of hit records there with them. And I formed my own production company. And I got a deal with Motown. We had an A&R office there in Muscle Shoals. And I built my own studio. And I had number one pop record on a group called Hot, Angel in Your Arms. We cut it at my place. And but during all this time, when I had the Motown thing, I still played sessions with them too, see. And it really worked out well. And then in 1988, I moved here to Nashville. And back then, when you're that young and you want something that bad, I mean, you're just so fired up, You just go. I mean, there's nothing gonna stop you. I mean, if the guys, if Barry and Jimmy and David and Roger hadn't went and got that other place, I was still coming anyway. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to be a part of that thing, and that's what you got to have. You got to have that just burning desire,
And talent.
Well, you got to have that. You got to be able to get in the door, and that's when you got to come through. I mean, you don't have the talent, you're not going to be there. Here we are in a town of 8,000 people, and here's this one little studio, and there's 5 or 6 of us. I mean, 4 guys that own the studio, plus the guitar players and me. And here we've got just 5 or 6 guys that's cutting all these hit records. It's like, I mean, it was like, I can remember we do, like 1 week I remember we're doing, how many tracks we doing? It's something like 80 tracks, 70, 80 tracks on the Stable Singers in 1 week. And then the next week, Bobby Womack would come in, we did 18 on him. And see, but every Friday I'd go by, or somebody would go by the front office and say, well, who's coming in Monday? And it'd always be somebody, Rod Stewart or whoever. It was amazing, Lulu. God, it was just a lot of fun, man. And what's amazing to me, and it's always amazed me, is that during that period of time, all of us guys we were only like 25, 26 years old with this much focus. You know what I'm saying? There's 5 or 6, 7 of us guys, and when you're 25 years old and you have that kind of focus, things happen. I'm not even sure it could happen today. I'm not sure I could get 5 or 6 guys that had that much focus. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, 24 hours a day, something's going on. I mean, there'd be people cutting in the daytime and till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then somebody else would come in at 9 or 10 o'clock and cut. It was insane.
And we're talking about a dry county.
We're talking about a dry county. But by the same token, it may have been a dry county, but I always had more liquor or beer in my refrigerator than I have now. And I live in Nashville. But I don't know, it's just something funny about a dry county that you could drive across state line. Hell, I didn't know how to drive across state line. You could drive down from my house anyway, 4 or 5 blocks, and there was a bootlegger. I mean, kept all the whiskey and stuff in a big old freezer. And it was more fun back then, actually, because there's that thing of getting caught. You know what I'm saying?
Did you play on Paper Roses?
No, it was done here. That was Marie.
Yeah.
But those kids were great, man. I mean, I tell you what's amazing. I tell you what was amazing to me was I remember when we did Go Away Little Girl on Donnie. I mean, Earl Brown from Los Angeles, our vocal arranger, came in and wrote a score. Wrote a score. And those kids sat there and just read that score. I mean, just right off the top, just sight read it, the background vocals. I said, man, that's pretty cool for the kids this age to be able to do that. And it wasn't like triads either. It was some serious music. And they sung those chords, man, some sharp 11s, and Jesus, man, I said, man, these kids are serious. And of course, when that album came out on Donnie, they sold out the Palladium in England, in London, quicker than the Beatles did. And I thought that was pretty amazing. That was really amazing, as a matter of fact. I mean, they were the Beatles in Europe. It was amazing. Tearing their clothes off, all that stuff, you know. It was funny, actually.
Did you ever go on the road with any of them?
No, I was strictly the studio guy. I just never, when I was on the road for 4 or 5 years in regular bands, and I just really wasn't crazy about the road. Because never, ever have I ever been on stage or played anywhere that sounded as good with a set of headphones on. It just doesn't, you can't make it sound that good nowhere else. And that's always, I just never did like the road. I did Jerry's last record with him, as a matter of fact. Well, in 1993, we had a James, a James record. And I'll never forget. He not only was Jerry one of the most brilliant people I ever met, he was also one of the funniest. You know, I remember the first day we started cutting Etta, and Jerry had 2 or 3 guitar players come in I'd never heard of. Of course, Steve was on it, Cropper. I knew Steve, right? But I didn't know these other 2 guys. Now, I knew Jimmy Vaughn. But there's one other guy from Texas. I can't mention no names because I don't even remember his name. That's how long he was there. But anyway, this was on a Monday, and every morning before the session started, I had to come in and review stuff, go over stuff with Jerry. And I'll never forget that second morning. This was always funny to me, man. And he looks at me and he says, and has his glasses, he's eating a sandwich, a bologna and cheese sandwich. And has his glasses down over his eyes like this. He says, "All right, baby." He said, who's gonna fire him? I said, "Jerry." And I think this is the day I got Jerry's respect. I says, "You hired him, you fire him." From that point on, man, we was cool.
And, oh, the guitar player, you mean?
Yeah, and guitar, and David Hood had to carry him to the airport, by the way. And yeah, I said, you hired him, you got to fire him. Of course, that wasn't no problem for Jerry, you know. But he was a great guy. He really was. I'll tell you what, talking about songwriters, I did this record over at Rick's, Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me, Mac Davis. And we went in there one day and we cut this track. Didn't have no song at all. Wasn't a song, wasn't even a melody. We just said, we'd cut this track. And I said, well, man, where's the song? And Mac goes over here and sits on the steps of the control room and writes it in 15 minutes. Because I saw him do it. 15 minutes, wrote the Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me. And that just amazes me, people write like that. Hey, when I heard If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Do Right, I said, my God, I wish I could write a song like that. Because I mean, when you hear certain songs, you know it's a hit. It's going to be a hit. Well, at least the way it was back then. I mean, record companies make things happen. It's a lot different than it is today. Today it's another animal today.
So I heard that Mac, maybe it was Rick Hall or somebody told him, go write a song with a hook in it.
Yeah, that was probably it. Well, buddy, he did.
And so he wrote, Baby
Don't Get Hooked on Me. That's it. That's it. And there it is.
Now, see, I can't imagine, as a writer, I can't really imagine putting lyrics to a
Well, see, that's what they did in Detroit. They'd go in and cut a bunch of tracks and write to the tracks. And to me, that made all the sense in the world. To me, it did. Just go cut some tracks and have your writers write to those tracks. Well, what it does, it locks your writer into a certain thing, but also a writer can lock musicians into a certain thing.
Yeah.
And well, I guess they'd rather cut the tracks and let you write to it because it obviously worked. Their way of doing it.
Yeah, I guess if you knew, I mean, whoever was hearing those tracks and hearing
Yeah. I mean, you could write, wherever an accent was, you could write something to it. You see what I'm saying? Because it's already laid out for you. And that seems so simple to me. And I guarantee you one thing, it worked for Motown. Because I remember when I was working for them in L.A., I went up one day to Joe Bett, their publishing company. I want to look at these songs. And it's frightening. It's like, there's no B-sides in this catalog. You know what I'm saying? This is all hits. Ain't no album cuts. These are hits. You know what I'm saying? It was real. I mean, it was sort of like, God almighty. You had Holland Doge Holler, and you had Ashford and Simpson. I mean, well, yeah, they had the cream of the crop for the writers. My God. And Marvin. Jesus, me, man.
Smokey?
Smokey? Good God. That's all you need. That's all you need is 4 or 5 writers like that. But it was great. And I'll tell you something else that I always wondered about. You know, when Motown left Detroit, why didn't somebody, some label, somebody do something, you get that rhythm section and keep going? I've never in my life understood that. Because it ain't like those guys quit playing just because Barry moved to L.A., you know. These guys could play, man. And why didn't somebody come in and say, hey, come and move here? Because they could play it. Because, I mean, if anybody's ever listened to that Standing in the Shadow CD with just the rhythm section playing with no singing, you know, that's about as good as it gets. Those guys are great.
When were you doing the most sessions?
I think when I was with the Muscle Shoals rhythm section, I mean, we did three sessions every day. Seemed like for years. Just seemed like for years.
And was it financially rewarding?
It was, but I'll tell you what, when I got an awakening, it was definitely financially rewarding. But I was riding down the road one day in Muscle Shoals, and I hear 2 records come on radio, sort of back to back, within maybe 2 or 3 records of each other. And I played the same lick on both records. I said, oh, Lord. I knew then it was, you're playing too much. You can only come up with so many things to play. You know what I'm saying? And when you start duplicating them on somebody else's records, a certain lick, you need to slow down. I do remember that. That happened. Freaked me out too. I just hope nobody else heard it.